Create a survival bag for emergency preparedness. Emergency preparedness is the main source of defense we have against any disaster. And that is why it's imperative that we all have survival bags ready to be packed and taken at a moment's notice. But what needs to be included in a survival bag? What is necessary, and what is merely a luxury we could live without? What are the things commonly passed over? For the answers to those questions and more, Absolute Rights has published the Get Out of Dodge Special Report on what to do in emergency situations. The report circulates its main idea around the fact that preparedness is the key to any life or death situation. Whether it's a natural disaster like a hurricane or earthquake, or a man-made scenario like a riot or nuclear fallout, a cooler head prevails. The only true way to have a cool head in situations like that is to be fully prepared. The author of the report was motivated to produce the helpful guide after surviving the Texas wildfires of 2011. As the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, reported, 6 months after the fires, upwards of $42 million has already been provided for wildfire survivors and their families. After 61 counties were granted assistance from FEMA's Public Assistance Program, a mere 29 shelters were set up to give survivors a place to stay. Those 29 shelters couldn't handle all the people displaced by the fire, and many of them were forced to fend for themselves before they were allowed to return home. For the ones who were prepared with a survival bag, the experience was a nuisance, but tolerable. For those who didn't think ahead, the situation was much worse. In Bastrop County alone, more than 500 homes were destroyed, according to a September 2011 International Business Times article. As a whole, the state of Texas saw 3.5 million acres of land burn away. That's good for almost half of all the acreage affected by wildfires in the entire U.S. last year. In order to be in the prepared group, you should start thinking about the essentials any survival bag should contain. Every family member needs to be considered, and food and water should be some of the first items included. After that, it is up to each individual or family to determine what's needed in a survival bag. The Get Out of Dodge report lists many of the additional contents in a survival bag. The Get Out of Dodge report lists many of the additional contents in survival bags and also mentions several of the things that are often forgotten. It includes emergency management plans and practice drills that allow for a routine to be set and also require you to think critically about what is most important in desperate times. Some things may be harder to gather when time is short, and some things may be too heavy or bulky to fit in an easy-to-carry bag. Distinguishing what's most important and most accessible is what makes a survival bag effective. There's no point in waiting for a disaster to strike, because by then it will be too late. Predictability is never very high in cases of emergency, so you need to be ready with little or no warning. Evacuations aren't camping trips or vacations. You may never be able to return to your home. Knowing the difference between what's needed and what's wanted can save a lot of time, effort, and energy. It's not always easy to find the answers, but Get Out of Dodge will help make sense of the survival bag concept. The special report asks that readers treat emergency preparedness practice as a workout at the gym. There's a connection between the physical abilities and the mental capacities involved in getting yourself prepared, and practicing helps address each and every situation that might occur. There's no point in living in fear or ignoring the potential for emergency. The best hope is for everyone to develop personal responsibility with an emergency plan and survival bag. And the best way to do that is to get a copy of Get Out of Dodge at www.bugoutreport.com.